Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com. Monday through Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Pacific. Ray Flowers breaks it all down for you from a fantasy sports perspective. Hey there, everyone. Ray Flowers of FantasyGuru.com. Hope you're doing well today on this Monday, the second day of December. The holidays are coming. Yay, holidays in December, the month of fun, all that good stuff. I hope the tech is working today. I think it is. I think you can hear me. I can hear you. Too bad we don't have a guest today. That was weird last week. Hopefully you enjoyed the Russell Clay pantomime. If you missed that, you can always check that out, episode 283. On demand. Where can you check things out on demand? You can always go to fantasyguru.com, click that Elite Plus tab at the top of the page, find the shows there. You can find them on Twitter X at Fantasy Guru site if you want to scroll through there and see the videos. You can also find the videos and ask comments and leave questions live in two spots. First one being facebook.com/fantasyguruhq. The second one being Elite Sports. It's youtube.com/Elite Sports Network. So lots of fun there. So check it out. Facebook, YouTube, ask questions, leave comments. We'll address them throughout the show. Check the site out, Elite Plus, top of the page. And you can also type in Fantasy Sports Daily to your podcast network. Get after it, folks. Have some fun here. Let's go. What are we talking about here? It's a Monday. I'm Ray Flowers, by the way, if you don't know that, of FantasyGuru.com. Here with you Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. Justin Festerman is here with you on Wednesdays. On Wednesdays, I'm on the Elite Sports Show on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio with Jeff Manns. So I'm here Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. On Wednesdays, I'm with Jeff on the Elite Sports Show. That's 3 to 6 Eastern, Monday through Friday for Jeff. I'm on with him, obviously, on Wednesdays from 3 to 6 Eastern time. Every Monday, it's the only day of the week that we don't have a guest. Tuesday, it's me and Armando Marsal talking waivers. Wednesday, it's Rich Mileto and Justin Fensterman. Thursdays, it's Tyler Beaker and myself. Tyler and I preview Thursday Night Football. Friday, it's myself and Russell Clay. We do a lot of keeper dynasty talk on Fridays, but also do seasonal football as well. But on Mondays, I just ramble. It's a little bit of a shorter set this week because normally I just do all the Sunday games, which is what I'm going to do today. That means we're not doing Thanksgiving days. We're not doing Black Friday days. Obviously, I haven't had the Monday game. So every Monday on the show, I go over the Sunday action. Again, a few less games this week. We'll deal with that. Don't forget here, Bye-Mageddon 2, week 14 coming up. 6 more teams on bye before we get full votes for weeks 15, 16, 17, and 18. So we'll go through all the games. I have no notes other than what you see there on the screen. Just one up, one down on each team, and we just talk. So it's free form. I haven't planned out what I'm going to say, anything like that. But before we get to that, I wanted to talk about a few things, a few players, actually, every Sunday morning on Twitter at SiriusXM Fantasy from 10 to 1 Eastern. I answer questions. DM your questions if you're sending them there. If you just send them regularly, I'm not going to see them. DM your questions at SiriusXM Fantasy Sunday mornings from 10 to 1 Eastern. I'm not in Discord on Sunday mornings. I'm not on my own Twitter account on Sunday mornings at SiriusXM Fantasy. There were a couple of players, and you can see them listed here, that I want to talk about before we got into the game action real quickly. I don't know who said Terry McLaurin was a bad start this week, but someone clearly did, and it had a massive impact to people. I wrote there probably 100 questions on Terry McLaurin. I'm not exaggerating. You might sound like I'm not exaggerating. I would be stunned if I legitimately didn't count the questions, and there were at least 100 with Terry McLaurin. It was like every second or third question. So if you know why everyone was panicked to start Terry McLaurin this week, I'd love to hear it. Because we had Terry McLaurin as the top 10 wide receiver at fantasyguru.com. I told everyone to play Terry McLaurin. I even tweeted out at some point, what is going on? Why is everyone trying to bench Terry McLaurin? And Terry McLaurin went out and scored 2 touchdowns. Why would anyone bench Terry McLaurin? I mean, haven't we known for 2 full months now he's a wide receiver 1? Or at very worst, a wide receiver 2? We've known this for months, literally. You probably say 3 months. And you might even be smart and say, well, going back to the preseason where we had him as a top 20 wide receiver. What the hell happened yesterday that everyone wanted to bench Terry McLaurin or didn't know if they should start him? Bizarre town. So if anyone's got a thought on that, please leave a comment here on Facebook or on YouTube. Did somebody on the national media spotlight say he sucks or don't play him? Or there was it's befuddling, absolutely befuddling that a guy who comes in as the number one pass catcher for his team, a guy that's producing all season long, that I get 100 questions about whether to start him when he was in our top 10 this week. Not our top 50, 40, 30, top 10. And oh, by the way, 8 catches and 2 touchdowns. So hopefully you weren't one of the people asking the question, because that was absolutely preposterous yesterday. Now, Taysom Hill got hurt. It sounds like his knee injury might cost him the rest of the season. What I find so fascinating, and again, it's right there, tons of questions on starting Taysom Hill. I don't get this. Okay. As I've said and maintained forever, Taysom Hill is not a tight end. He shouldn't be listed as a tight end. All of it, total not. Okay. Regardless, he qualifies at tight end in the vast majority of leagues. Some leagues he's quarterback only. The majority of leagues, he is a tight end eligible player. If you have Taysom Hill, and I'll just be honest with all of you about this, if you have Taysom Hill, there is no strategy to Taysom Hill, and I've said this all along. If you have him, you either play him or you don't. You get your 5 points or you get your 18 points. Go for it. Tons of questions over and over and over. Ingram or Hill. Hawkinson or Hill. McBride or Hill. Njoku or Hill. I mean, what are you doing? Number one, carry one tight end, as I talk about all the time, because it jams your roster up, especially in these big bye weeks. And number two, why are you adding Taysom Hill and then not using him? If you're not going to use him, which I get, I'm not saying, it's a must start, or I think we had him as tight end 6 this week or whatever before he got hurt and he was on the field the whole time. If you're going to have him on your team, you got to use him. And if you have Taysom Hill, drop your other tight end. And if you're worried, I have Trey McBride, then why did you add Taysom Hill? This is another situation that's just bizarre. Just bizarre to me that anyone, I probably had 40 questions with Taysom Hill yesterday. Just don't get it. And then finally, this last one. The most shocking one to me, and I was stunned by the volume of McLaurin questions. I was shocked by the 14, 15 guesstimate, 10 to 15, let's say. Questions about people starting Josh Allen. And by the way, anyone asking me questions on Sunday morning, you don't have to tell me, which I saw yesterday probably 100 times, well, I'm worried about the weather. I know there was weather in Buffalo. I didn't need to hear it every time someone asked a question. Very weird. But anyway, question after question after question about Josh Allen. I put it about 15. And I sent out a tweet to everybody and said, bench Josh Allen at your own peril. Like, you got Lamar Jackson, you got Jalen Hurts. I get it. I'm not starting Bo Nix over Josh Allen. I'm not starting Matthew Stafford over Josh Allen. I'm not starting Kyler Murray over Josh Allen. I'm not starting Anthony Richardson. All these questions that kept coming up. I even had a couple of people push back and argue with me. Well, what about the weather? You're not concerned about the weather. I have Josh Allen on like 4 of my teams. I didn't for a moment, consider going in a different direction. Why would you? Oh, the snow. Well, he had 2 passing scores. He had a rushing score, and he had a fake receiving score. He scored 4 touchdowns yesterday. Did I expect 4 touchdowns? No, of course not. Of course not. But if you have Josh, and this is just to say it before we dive into the game action. Making decisions like benching Terry McLaurin or benching Josh Allen is why you lose in fantasy football. That's it. That is the losing fantasy football in a nutshell. If you're the person that wanted to bench Terry McLaurin yesterday or bench Josh Allen yesterday, you're going to lose. You're not going to win this year. It's not going to happen. If you're even in the zone of being able to win this year, may not even make the playoffs. Terry McLaurin is an auto start, period. Josh Allen is an auto start, period. It doesn't matter who they're playing. It doesn't matter the matchup. Just play them. One of the biggest problems we run into in fantasy football is that you all can't just do the normal and easy and simple thing. Don't try to be a hero, which is why I'm never in the Taysom Hill game. Don't try to be a hero. Just play it. Hope you didn't bench Josh Allen. And I know people did, because again, I had people arguing with me yesterday when I told them to play Josh Allen. They were still pushing back and arguing. So I'm sure they did. Haven't seen one person say, oh, you're right, Ray. Probably not going to do that, because that doesn't generally happen. But don't complicate things. You don't get difficulty points. Play it straight. It's like the Amir Abdullah people this week. I answered 15 Amir Abdullah questions within 10 minutes of the Raiders announcing, White and Madison Hart again. And I said every time, okay, you can go Amir Abdullah. Don't like it. Okay, you can go Amir Abdullah. I don't want to do it. Okay, you can start Amir Abdullah, but there's no teams on bye this week. What are you doing? I said it every time I answered the question. What did Amir Abdullah do? Nothing. Sincere McCormick was the better play. Don't try to be a hero. If you get lucky, like you did a couple of weeks ago with Amir Abdullah, cool. But you can't make a habit of trying to get lucky. It just doesn't work long term. All right, let's talk a little bit about the Chargers. Chargers defeated the Falcons 17-13. Josh, I used the name Gus Edwards here. Let's talk a little bit about the backfield situation. I had a question in Discord this morning about this backfield. And, the issue is J.K. Dobbins, who we talked about here on the show last week, he's out 4 weeks at least. He's on the IR, okay? So as we anticipated, the delay in us finding information out about Dobbins was indeed because there was a significant injury. It is possible his regular season is over. Best case scenario, he's back in the final week. And since 97% of leagues, 99% of leagues don't play in the final week of the season, it doesn't matter. So Dobbins is done from fantasy world this year. What do we get yesterday? Unfortunately, we got Hassan Haskins involved. Now, luckily, I say this because Hassan Haskins, he had a fumble, all right, at the goal line, right? Just get rid of Hassan Haskins. He should not be touching the football in this. He shouldn't. Let's just get rid of that. I think that situation yesterday resolved itself, right, with the fumble. Gus Edwards led the way over Kamani Vidal yesterday in terms of touches, as anticipated. That's what we said all week at FG. That's what I said here on the show. If I had to start a guy this week, I'd start Gus Edwards. Don't really want to start Gus Edwards. I think Kamani Vidal takes this backfield over if Dobbins is out long-term. Dobbins is out long-term. Edwards was the lead guy yesterday, and we'll see if Vidal takes it over. The thing with Edwards is the same thing with Edwards as I went in I think it was episode 272 or 273. It was one of those where I talked about running backs and adding players and all that. And I said directly with our example of Gus Edwards, he gets in the end zone, he gets you 13 points. He doesn't get in the end zone, he's a 6-point-a-week guy. Yesterday, he had 30 yards. What do you have? 30. He was a 4.5-point guy yesterday. That's the Gus Edwards experience. A good game for him is 60 rushing yards. A bad game for him is 35 rushing yards. And whether he gets in the end zone or not is the whole story with him. Vidal has a better skill set. He's more talented. He's more well-rounded, and he can help in the passing game. So we'll see. I think that we didn't get anything from Edwards yesterday. We didn't get anything from Haskins. In fact, we got a big negative from Haskins. And this is an odd game because they had, what I'm looking at it right now, they had 11 carries, did the Charge 11 carries by running backs. And I know they're throwing the ball more and everything. They only threw the ball 23 times. They didn't run any plays. Still beat the Falcons, but they just didn't run any plays. Things will get better moving forward for this Chargers offense. They're all 8-4, by the way. On the Falcons, on their side of things, I mean, Kirk Cousins is in full torpedo mode. A couple of those interceptions he threw for yesterday were just awful. Like, what are you doing awful? Like, I'm trying to think, like, Desmond Ridder awful. Like, what are you doing? He's got, in the last 3 games, he's got, no touchdowns? What was it? Let me pull this up real quick. No touchdown passes in 3 games and, like, 6 interceptions. The last 3 games, Kirk Cousins, no touchdown passes and 6 picks in 3 games. I mean, this is just, and, at this point, we're just as likely to see Pitts catch 1 pass as 4. Mooney was averaging 5 catches a game for like 6 or 7 weeks. He has 5 catches the last 2 weeks now. The only guy that's Cousins proof, is Drake London. Drake London had 9 catches for 86 yards yesterday. Now it took 16 targets to get there. And he was the target on some chucks that Cousins made that turned into interceptions. But the bottom line is this offense is really Bijan Robinson and Drake London right now, and that's it. Hold on one moment. Get some water. Which is actually tea, but it's right now it's Robinson and London or bust, and Kirk Cousins is playing, playing like ass. So he needs to improve dramatically. The Falcons fall to 6-6. Their playoff hopes are teetering. Beyond that, we need a return to normalcy from Cousins because he's not doing enough in the air to make this offense really about anything more than 2 people. And that's including Mooney, who, again, was for 6 weeks pretty good, and Pitts, who's, fringe tight end 1 each week. Cousins got to get better. It was just a horrible outing yesterday. And, again, continues a 3-week span where things have been bad. Going to the Pittsburgh-Cincinnati game, huge scoring game here. Jeff Manns went on a rant yesterday about defensive points and everything like that, and he's totally right. The Bengals scored a ton of points here, giving up 44 points to the Steelers. Like, Steelers 44-38 over the Bengals. The Bengals season's over. They're up to 8 losses. Steelers moved to 9-3. Mike Tomlin never loses. It's like, 19 years in a row, whatever the hell it is, with an even or winning record. Phenomenal. We had the George Pickens experience again, drawing multiple penalties and being a lunatic on the football field. Got a touchdown catch. Good with the bad, I guess, with him. But I wanted to talk a second about Najee Harris. And this is an interesting one because this keeps coming up over and over again. It came up on the broadcast yesterday. It comes up each week when we talk here on this show and in questions over at fantasyguru.com. If you have Najee Harris, you start Najee Harris. Is it sexy? No. Is it exciting? No. Is it Gus Edwards? No. It's 17, 18 touches every week, 80 yards from scrimmage, and then we'll see about the touchdown. And hopefully he'll catch 2 or 3 passes. Well, yesterday he got the touchdown. He had the 75 yards on the ground. He also caught 6 balls for 54 yards, breaking tackles all over the place. It's a huge effort for him. Huge effort for him. That's 22 touches, 125 yards from scrimmage, and a touchdown. Concerning here is that Jalen Warren, who should be the backup, was out touched by was he out touched? No, he had this one more touch. He had one more touch than Cordarrelle Patterson. But why is Cordarrelle Patterson a thing? Arthur Smith, good God. Like, Harris misses some time because he's dealing with something physical on the sidelines, and here comes Patterson to take over the series. It's not Warren. It's 412-year-old Corey Patterson. So I don't know with Cordarrelle Patterson. Sorry, I said Corey. Wrong sport. That's an old baseball player. But Patterson's involved, which, we would like to think that if Harrison does go down with an injury, Warren then becomes 18, 20 touches a week in his place. I don't know. After the way the backs were utilized yesterday and Arthur Smith's love affair with Patterson, I don't know. We might just get 2 guys with 12 touches. Something to think about. If you're cuffing Harris, you still want Warren, but not ideal there. On the other side of things, we had Joe Burrow throw for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. A touchdown for Yosavash, a touchdown for Jamar Chase, and then another touchdown for T. Higgins. T. Higgins, 5 catches, 69 yards, and a touchdown. He actually had one more target than Jamar Chase. When Chase and Higgins are in the game together, which doesn't happen because Chase is always out there and Higgins isn't. But when they've been out there on the field, I think they're only separated by a handful of targets. Like, Higgins almost gets Chase to a draw in terms of targets each week. And again, yesterday he had one more target. The question with Higgins isn't, should you start him? You absolutely should. I think we had him as wide receiver 18, 19, something like that yesterday. He's always a start. The question is he going to play? If T. Higgins is out there, he's in your lineup. Now, Ray, you told me not to start him yesterday. Some people have 4 receivers in the top 15. Again, we've talked about this a lot. I don't know how that works. More power to y'all if that's one of you out there watching right now. But for the average person, or the person in a deeper league or a league that starts 3 wide receivers, you are firing up T. Higgins every week because that guy just produces, and he did so yet again yesterday, even though the Bengals lost that football game and fell to 4-8. Houston and Jacksonville. Houston won the football game, moved to 8-5. Jackals fall to 2-10. Obviously, the big storyline is the Trevor Lawrence injury. Is his season over? He was concussed. He's got the left shoulder issue. They're continuing to talk about, even right before game time, I should say, potential shoulder surgery on his non-throwing shoulder. So I don't know if his season's over or not. But when we talk about this game directly, let's continue the discussion at the quarterback spot. C.J. Stroud should have had a huge game yesterday against the Jaguars defense. It's not good against the air or through the air. He wasn't. 242 yards and a touchdown. I mean, this is going on a month now of C.J. Stroud being, quarterback 18. I'm making that number up. I don't know what it is. It's not good. And we have Nico Collins return 8 catches for 119 yards. Collins leads the NFL in yards per game. As a pass catcher, he continues to be a star. The problem for them is Tank Dell. Tank Dell had 4 targets yesterday. Ugh. 1 catch for 23 yards. And I saw a question earlier. Let's see here. Here it is. Senor Rojo asked a question, which on the surface seems like a bad question, but in reality has to be considered. Senor Rojo says, is it safe to drop Tank Dell for Westbrook-Ikhine? Westbrook-Ikhine, by the way, he's listed there. Let's see, where is he? He's listed right there, as I get my finger in the right spot. He has scored in 7 of 8 games. Let's just talk about it since the question came up. He scored in 7 of 8 games. He has 8 touchdowns in 8 games. He had a season best yesterday. What was it? 8 targets yesterday? Where is that game? I think it was 8 targets yesterday. He had 8 targets yesterday. He had more than Calvin Ridley. Do I want to make the decision to drop Tank Dell? No, I don't. Would I ever start Nick Westbrook-Akine and feel good about it? No, I wouldn't. I will say this, though. Houston's on a bye this week. So you're not playing him this week. Given his lack of production here, or at least lack of consistency, I think it's very difficult to feel good about playing him in Week 15. Week 15 is the first week of the playoffs for almost everybody in fantasy. The Week 15 matchup is in Denver at Denver. Oh, excuse me, wrong line. It's against Miami at home. If he's your drop guy to add NWI, you can do it. I don't want to do it. Again, I think that I would still feel much more comfortable starting NWI. I mean, starting Dell over NWI. Can't lie with the production being disappointing with Tank Dell. And again, he's on a bye this week. So that might answer your question. Because 6 teams on bye, it's going to be difficult to hold on to guys that aren't producing. I'd like to, in my leagues, I'm in 14-team leagues or 12-team leagues with deep benches and all that. Tank Dell's not in the waiver wire in my leagues. But in your leagues, it's not crazy to consider it. It's just not. On the other side of this game, Travis Etienne, the Jaguars are a mess because we don't know who the quarterback is. They've lost all their pass catchers, all that. You look at the backfield info here. Etienne had 5 more snaps than Bigsby. He ran 5 less routes than Bigsby, which was odd. He did have more targets. So what we saw here was Bigsby and Etienne pretty much in a 50-50 split in terms of the work. In terms of the touch count, Etienne had 16 touches and Bigsby had 8. So though they were on the field the same amount, Etienne doubled up Bigsby in terms of touches. Bigsby is the back to own. We've said that pretty much all season long when healthy. I think we saw that again yesterday. He's trending toward being healthy. Now, the problem is they can't run the football. They haven't run the football in a month. Part of that is the issues with Trevor Lawrence and the quarterback play, though Mac Jones was passable yesterday, 235 and 2. Etienne is the option to start over Bigsby if you have to make that call. Do you want to do it as anything other than a flex play? No, you don't. But he is the option over Bigsby at this point in time. All right, let's go on to Arizona and Minnesota. We've talked a lot here, or I've talked everywhere, not we, Ray Flowers. Talked about Kyler Murray. I just don't. He's just not my guy. Yesterday, 260 yards, a touchdown, 2 interceptions, ran for 48 yards. Again, he's fine. I see too many passes where he's just flinging it up. I see too many passes where he's floating it. I rarely, if ever, see him drive a football into a receiver. We heard a big report before the game yesterday that got people excited. Marvin Harrison's going to see his workload increase. They're going to make him a focal point of this offense. They lost the game by a point in OT to the Vikings, 23-22. They did. Wasn't OT. Was it OT? No, it wasn't OT. That was the Tampa Bay game. Sorry. That was 23-21 to Minnesota. I said that, and I was like, that's not right. 12 targets to Marvin Harrison. Let's freaking go. Huge target total. Now, Murray threw 45 passes. So we're still looking at a 26% target share, which is good, but not tremendous. Khalil Shakir was at 42% yesterday as an example. So Harrison had a big target total, largely because of the volume. Still only caught 5 passes. Now, he caught 60 yards of passes and scored a touchdown. So his fantasy game was 17 points in a PPR setup. It was 12 points in a non-PPR setup. These are still good numbers. These are still very usable numbers. That level of production for your number 1 wide receiver when you're getting 12 targets. I mean, Michael Wilson had 5 catches for 55 yards. So I've said this a lot with Kyler Murray coming into the season. I continue to say it in season. Murray, with multiple head coaches, with multiple offensive coordinators, with multiple systems, has not ever proven capable, ever, of producing an elite wide receiver 1 season, period. There's 1,000-yard catch season in his entire career. It was DeAndre Hopkins a few years back. That's it. And Marvin Harrison, who in any week can be massive, who the Cardinals took a top 5 pick, who all of you overdrafted in the fantasy space, who is still absolutely the number one pass catching receiver for this team. Trey McBride's the number one passing option on this team. Harrison is still all those things, and he's still just a dude going up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, largely because of his quarterback play. On the other side of things, we got some issues with Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones didn't do anything yesterday. He did get in the end zone as a pass catcher, so at least there was that. He fumbled the ball twice. He lost one fumble. I believe that's 3 fumbles now in 3 games for Aaron Jones. This is bad, 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 bad. Cam Akers is the backup. Ty Chandler's third in the pecking order here. So if Cam Akers is on the waiver wire, add him right now. I doubt he's on the waiver wire because people think he's better than he is. People underestimate how good Aaron Jones can be. But the bottom line is Jones is having fumble problems. And if you can't hold the football, it doesn't matter who you are, you don't get the football. It's very simple. You can't turn the ball over in the NFL. So it'll be very interesting to see, what happens here moving forward. The Vikings won that football game yesterday by a point. And I mean, look at this. They had a total of 11 carries. It's another team. I know we're in a passing era, but 11 carries? Like we just talked about things with the Chargers. Like 11 carries as a team for your backfield? Luckily the Vikings won this game, but 235 yards and 2 passing scores for Darnold. I was like, he lit things up. But Aaron Jones is still the starter with the Vikings until we're told otherwise. Aaron Jones is still the best play in the fantasy space until we're told otherwise. But I am getting nervous. And if you don't have Akers as a Jones handcuff, this is why you should have Cam Akers on your team. Indianapolis and New England, both teams on bye coming up this week. The Colts with the late victory, thrilling finish there, 25-24 with the Patriots. Patriots fall to 3-10. The Colts are 6-7. Jonathan Taylor, I continued to get Jonathan Taylor questions yesterday. And going back to the theme earlier in the show today, Jonathan Taylor is an auto start. Period. Never take him out of your lineup. But Ray, don't take him out of your lineup. Don't do it. Yesterday, 25 carries, 96 yards, had a touchdown as a pass catcher. You can't touch the ball 20 times a week and not score touchdowns. In terms of running backs touching the ball 20 times a week, there's 3 or 4, maybe 5 guys that ever do that on a semi-consistent basis. And Taylor's one of those guys. Don't ever bench Jonathan Taylor. And don't ask me stupid questions about, do I go Jonathan Taylor? Well, I'm trying to remember, like yesterday, what did I get? Jonathan Taylor or, Nick Chubb. Jonathan Taylor or Gus Edwards. Jonathan Taylor or, Jalen Warren. Like, come on. Don't outsmart yourself. Just don't. Do the smart thing, which is start Jonathan Taylor. Now, on the other side of things, Drake Maye, this team's going on a bye, and they're 3-10. They're not going anywhere. And Drake Maye is not he's not a quarterback one. Even if he has quarterback one efforts in the fantasy space, he's not a quarterback one in fantasy. But he's done a pretty darn good job. He's spread the ball around. I think there's like 10 guys that have caught touchdown passes from him. Yesterday it was 238 yards, a touchdown and interception, only 6 incomplete passes. He was very efficient. And as they made a big deal of on the broadcast, on a per carry basis, I think Drake Maye leads all quarterbacks in the NFL. Yesterday it was 5 carries for 59 yards. He is doing what Bo Nix has done. Everyone loves Bo Nix and talks about Bo Nix. They're not really talking about Drake Maye. There haven't been as many 2-touchdown games, though, to be fair, Nix didn't start out throwing a bunch of 2-touchdown games either. Drake Maye's been pretty good, given everything. Let's remember, too, that this offense is basically featuring Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper. Like, their receiving core is not exactly stellar here. I mean, they don't even know they've changed their number 1 wide receiver like 5 times this year. Like, there's not even clarity in their pecking order. We talk about you and I establishing, depth charts in the fantasy space. Patriots don't even have a depth chart with their own receiving core. Like, so Drake Maye's been pretty good. And if you can run for 30 to 40 yards every week, which is what he's doing, that's really nice. Because, again, we don't record points properly for quarterback play. We give way too much credit for running, not enough credit for passing when your job as a quarterback is to pass the football. But anyway, Drake Maye yesterday, 59 rushing yards, routinely running for 30-plus yards. A nice little bonus for those of you starting him in really deep leagues. I'm starting him in my Dynasty League. It's 16 teams. I did lose Daniel Jones and Justin Fields. I drafted Maye to be the guy hopefully next year. He's unfortunately had to be the guy this year. But in a scenario like that, he's been very effective. And in a 2 QB Superflex league, he continues to be that for the Patriots and for you. Seattle, New Jersey. Seattle won this game 26-21. Kenneth Walker's another one of these guys. Just start Kenneth Walker. Like, I get it. It's unappealing. It's unsexy. He's not Mr. Elite on a per-touch basis. But even yesterday when he didn't do anything, he still touched the ball 18 times. I know Zach Charbonnet got in the end zone. Charbonnet only touched the ball 6 times. Like, he just happened to have the touchdown. So Kenneth Walker, people forget the 3 touchdown game earlier, the 6 touchdowns the first 6 weeks or whatever the hell it was, because he has slowed since then. But continue to start Kenneth Walker. As much as we all are excited about what could be with Charbonnet and the fact that Charbonnet siphons off touchdowns and touches like he did yesterday, we still had 18 touches from Kenneth Walker. Moral of the story, do you have a running back that's touching it 15 plus times a week, which is what Walker always does? Very difficult to bench that guy, regardless of the matchup, regardless of the scenario. Walker still had 2 catches yesterday. Don't forget, he's added that component to his game this year, catching 3 or 4 passes with frequency, something he just didn't do the first couple of years in the NFL. On the other side of things, we're talking running backs. This Breece Hall thing, Breece Hall, his knee was a concern coming in, right? And that was the big issue. It's like, oh my gosh, early in the week we were panicked. He's going to miss practice. Oh, it's over, right? This whole thing. And he came out and said, no, I'm fine. My knee's a little sore. I'll be cool. And if you look at the workload, 42 snaps yesterday, that more than doubles the 19 of Braylon Allen and almost quadruples the 12 of Isaiah Davis. So dominated in terms of touches. He also ran 21 routes in the passing game. The other 2 guys, Allen and Davis, had 19 routes run. So clearly yesterday, Allen was easily the lead in that backfield. Now, the problem is he had 12 carries for 60 yards, which is okay if you catch the 4, 5, 6, 7 passes, which he often does, for the 45 yards. Yesterday, he didn't catch a pass. He had 1 target. First time all year he didn't catch a pass. This is about the offense. This is about Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers went 21 for 39 yesterday. Oof. Like, Aaron Rodgers usually goes 31 for 39, right? Or 29 for 39. He doesn't go 21 for 39. Aaron Rodgers is a mess. The fact that the head coach has to come out and say he's still our quarterback at this point in time tells you everything you need to know about Aaron Rodgers. But the bottom line is the offense Aaron Rodgers can't complete passes. He completed 10 of 22 passes. He didn't even complete half his passes to Adams and Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson's running wide open, and Adams just can't hit him. Rodgers can't hit him. It's having a trickle-down effect. Rodgers is not able to challenge defenses through the air like he has in the past, and that's impacting the running game. Also impacting the running game is the fact that now we have Davis involved too. Now, before we all get excited for Davis, realize that Davis basically yesterday, he did get the touchdown. Basically had as many touches and snaps yesterday as he had all season coming into yesterday. It is a concern to me, not that he was active, because they obviously had him active just in case Breece Hall was, not able to go or his knee flared up on him. That part's not surprising at all. The fact they gave him work, why? Why are you giving that to Braylon Allen anyway? So Hall is still the starter. Hall is still somebody you start every week. Allen is still the backup. Isaiah Davis is not somebody you should be adding off the waiver wire. Don't do it. Disappointing effort, though, yesterday from Breece Allen. And, again, disappointing effort basically for the entire offense of the Jets. Tennessee and Washington, we just talked about Nick Westbrook-Ikhine. 8 targets, a season best. Led the team in targets. Will Levis didn't even hit half of his passes yesterday. Will Levis, to put it fairly and bluntly, has not been good this year. And he was good last year for like 2 of the 8 games he played. He has not been good as an NFL player. He's got all the skills and all the tools. He has not been productive. And it's not just statistically. He has not been good. He is holding back this offense to some extent. When Mason Rudolph is out there, they had more success moving the ball, which should tell you a lot, right? Nick Westbrook-Ikhine getting 8 targets is really intriguing. He scored 2 touchdowns yesterday. Fantastic. Still only caught 3 passes. And when you talk about a player having positive touchdown regression, Trey McBride leads football in catches and targets without a touchdown. It's just stupid. He said 25 targets the last 2 weeks or whatever, catching 10 passes, can't get in the end zone. That's stupid. Nick Westbrook-Ikhine scoring 8 times in 8 games is equally stupid, just on the other end of the spectrum. So, again, we talked about him earlier in the show. If you missed it, you can always rewind. He's obviously somebody, NWI, that should be added. in the vast majority of leagues. I think we had him as wide receiver 35 yesterday, something like that. Bye weeks. Still got the bye weeks coming up here. Okay, they're not on bye this week. Who's on bye this week? Let's go through the list real quickly. The Colts, the Patriots, the Broncos, the Commanders, the Ravens, and the Texans. So if maybe NWI sneaks in there as an option for you this week as your third wide receiver, as your flex because of the bye weeks. I'm still very nervous because it's still 3 catches. It's not likely to be 8 targets every week. And, frankly, that touchdown run is miraculous and impossible for him to continue to extend. Just impossible. Moving on, Tampa Bay and Carolina. Tampa Bay won that football game 26-23 in overtime. The Bucs go to 6-6. The Panthers fall to 3-9. A good back and forth game. Bucky Irving, let's go. I think he was in the core 4 this week, if I remember correctly, over at fantasyguru.com. Bucky Irving, 25 carries, 152 yards, and a touchdown. Fantastic work on the ground. 3 catches or 33 yards. That's over 180 yards from scrimmage, 28 touches. Now, 28 touches is a lot. He hurt his hip at the end of the first half. He played through it in the second half. Okay. I think my real problem is that I don't know what the Tampa Bay team is doing. Okay. Sean Tucker, according to the head coach, needed to see the ball more. They came out and said that didn't happen. Sean Tucker needs to see the ball more, according to the head coach. He came out and said that didn't happen. Sean Tucker didn't get a touch yesterday. He didn't have a snap yesterday. It makes me nervous because this seems like a very clear scenario. Of course, it seems like a very clear scenario back in week 1 when Bucky Irving was the best running back on this team ahead of Rachaad White anyway. Took him half the season to figure that out. White yesterday still had 11 carries for 76 yards, still caught a pass. It seems like they finally determined, as they should have, again, 2 months ago or 3 months ago, that Bucky Irving is the guy that should get the ball on the ground. That Rachaad White is the third down guy. He'll get his 10 to 14 touches depending upon game flow and all that. And we're going to get 18 touches a week to Bucky Irving. So I think that's what happened yesterday, a solidification of that. Keep an eye on the hip issue. He's going to be sore anyway. 28 touches, obviously a professional high for him. But he is coming down the stretch here as hopefully not Jerome Harrison, who, if you don't remember, go look at Jerome Harrison's fantasy playoffs 1 year. He had ran for like 530 yards and 5 touchdowns or something stupid in 3 weeks. But Bucky Irving's got the look of a guy that could help you win a league. Absolutely. And looked fantastic. The numbers were great yesterday. And if you go back and watch some game film of that, if you get the opportunity, notice how many times Bucky Irving was through the line of scrimmage when he wasn't got touched. Like, they opened up some big holes against that Panthers defense. That offensive line did a really good job yesterday for Tampa Bay. On the other side of things here, Adam Thielen. Adam Thielen went 8 catches, 99 yards, and a touchdown. A huge game. I think we had him as wide receiver 28 this week. Huge game after the really disappointing first game. I don't know if you probably didn't start him yesterday. Again, everyone's got top 20 wide receivers. But we had him as wide receiver 28 this week. Huge game. He had a second touchdown, which I've seen people argue against. Like, I don't understand. If you saw the catch in the end zone where he made the catch and he fumbled it a little bit as he was coming down, he then secures the ball. His knee hits the ground. His elbow hits the ground inbounds. They said no touchdown. That should have been 9 catches and 2 touchdowns. Period. Because he caught that football. Period. But Thielen looked good. He looked spry. He clearly was the number 1 pass catcher for this team. He's the number 1 target for this team. He saw 10 targets. This goes back to what we were saying a couple weeks ago. Add Thielen. He showed that connection last year early in the season with Bryce Young. He showed very little of the connection last week. But this week, that's what we were hoping would happen from Adam Thielen. It would have been great if that effort happened during bye weeks, right? Because, again, very few people started him the first time because he caught 3 balls for 37 yards or whatever it was. I don't think anyone started him yesterday, even though we had him in our top 30. Now everyone's going to start him the next game. Let's hope we don't get the next 4 for 50, which is probably what we're going to get. But it was really great to see Thielen look good and to be such an integral part of that offense. And again, should have had 2 touchdowns and not 1. That was a crappy call by the officials in that one. The Rams defeated the Saints 21-14, moved to 6-6. The Saints fall to 4-8. Kyren Williams ran for 100 yards and a touchdown. Only caught 1 pass, as we talked about here on the show. He's no longer catching 3 or 4 passes a week. He's catching 0-1 balls a week, which is disappointing. I mean, I'm 16 touches, 100 yards from scrimmage, and a touchdown. Never going to complain about that, of course. But, not having the 3 or 4 catches for 29 yards, not getting those extra 6 points, that's a disappointment because now he's no longer the top 5 running back. He's a top 12 running back, which, again, is fine. You play him every week. It's all good. But it'd really be nice to see him get involved there. I think this slightly bigger concern, only slight, but slightly bigger concern is I could have listed instead of Kyren Williams, or I could have listed Blake Corum. Because Blake Corum yesterday was 8 carries for 42 yards. He was pretty involved. And Corum actually had series to himself where he was the guy. Like, it wasn't like they sprinkled him in when Williams was tired or anything. Like, they gave him a couple of series yesterday. And in the end, Kyren Williams played 38 snaps. Blake Corum only played 18. But remember, at the start of the season, Kyren Williams was playing 90% of the snaps. He was on the field the whole time. Yesterday, 38 of 56 snaps. So, I mean, he basically played 2/3 of snaps, which is way down for him. Again, he's still the guy. Again, you still start him. But it's really starting to look like league-winning upside from Kyren Williams. Not going to be a thing. Losing some snaps, losing some touches to Blake Corum. And he's not involved as a pass catcher as he has been in the past. MVS on the other side, I mean, this is very much Nick Westbrook-Akine. I guess West, even though it's only halfway across the country. Valdez-Scantling got in the end zone yet again. He's getting in the end zone every week. He had a really nice 28-yard touchdown throw from Derek Carr. A nice play, beautiful, ran by the guy, bad defense, caught it ball. 3 targets, 2 catches. It's the same thing with Nick Westbrook-Akine. It's like NWI at least has Calvin Ridley there to be the number 1 receiver for his team. For the Saints, who's the number 1 wide receiver here? Austin, Wilson, Pettis. Like, they have all their receivers are hurt. So MVS, I think, honestly, is their number 1 wide receiver. And that still only led to 3 targets and 2 catches yesterday. So I'm not starting MVS. Again, we had him in that 35 to 40 range. I think we had him right behind. He was either right behind or right in front of Westbrook. Akine, what was it? Let me pull it up. Where was he? MVS, he was right in front of him, like a spot ahead of him. What can I say? Like, I'm not starting that guy. He's got to get in the end zone or it's absolutely nothing. And, bye weeks, teams on bye, these kind of guys that have, a couple of targets that could lead you to 50 yards and a touchdown, there's value to them in some leagues. And in some scenarios, that's probably the best you can do. In most scenarios, I hope you don't have to get down to that level because there's really nothing to say that makes sense to do. The Philadelphia-Baltimore game was a good football game. Philadelphia 24-19. Wasn't really that close. The Ravens scored right at the end. Late touchdown by Isaiah Likely. I think he had 2 or 3 catches on that final drive and got the touchdown. So gave him 5 catches for 38 and a score. His fantasy game would have been another nothing bagel if he hadn't got that late touchdown, which I'm not saying that Eagles allowed to happen, but clearly they were in prevent mode. Mark Andrews had 6 catches for 67 yards and the touchdown. Let's talk about him for a second before going back to the Eagles, excuse me. Mark Andrews, and he had a carry too on a short yardage. I think it's 2 weeks in a row. He's gotten a carry like on 4th and 1. Mark Andrews is making it happen. He looked athletic. He made some nice grabs. The last couple of weeks he made some nice grabs. And that was a concern earlier in the year. Like, where is he at physically? And was that car accident bigger deal than we thought? Charlie Kohler has been placed on the injured list, so that changed up the rotation at the tight end spot, allowed Andrews to see some more work yesterday. He had 1 less target than Likely, but as I noted, almost all of Likely's production was on the final drive of the game. Andrews, 7 targets, 6 catches, 67 yards, and a score. Likely continues to be the number 1 tight end for this team. He continues to be a number 1 tight end in the fantasy space. And, they're on bye this week, so we got to figure something out if we're rolling with these guys. But Mark Andrews, when all is said and done, what's he got? 6 touchdowns in 7 or 8 games, something like that. It's not going to be an elite season. It's not going to reach the levels that we had hoped for. But Mark Andrews is still going to be a tight end 1 this year. So at least we're getting that. On the other side, Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts starts every game. He's another one of these guys. If you have him, you just start him. He ran for a touchdown. He threw for a touchdown. He does this every week. Almost like it's crazy. It gets lost because the Eagles are 10-2, because Saquon Barkley is marching toward a potential MVP award, because the defense is really good, because Derrick Henry's doing this crazy stuff on the other side of things, because Lamar Jackson's doing this and Josh Allen's doing that. But the bottom line is Jalen Hurts is really good. and he continues to play some really good football. Unfortunately, fortunately, he keeps getting the rushing touchdowns, because unfortunately, he's just not passing the ball effectively for a fantasy quarterback. Having nothing to do with him. He only threw 19 passes again yesterday, 118 yards and a touchdown. Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert, and A.J. Brown, they're 3 top pass catchers, and frankly, they're only 3 pass catchers, because it's not Covey, it's not Campbell, it's not Dotson. None of these guys can step up when there's an injury. Devonta Smith's hamstring, he can't get on the field. And the offense is sputtering through the air. Now, they're 10-2, and they won a football game on the road against the Ravens, which are a really good football team. So let's not get ahead of ourselves here. But the 270-2 or the 250-2 through the air quarterback that Jalen Hurts has been and should be is not available right now because they can't keep these receivers healthy. Saquon Barkley had another 25 touches yesterday, playing with fire there too. I get it, but giving this guy tons and tons and tons and tons, 25 touches a week, keeping our fingers crossed he stays healthy. Jalen Hurts is fine, still a starter. Hopefully Devonta Smith will be back this week, and we'll get him to throwing the ball more. 19, 22 pass. Throw the ball 30 times. Everything will be fine with Jalen Hurts if we do that. Finally, the Buffalo Niners game that we talked about earlier when people were panicked about starting Josh Allen. Christian McCaffrey, you probably have all heard by now. PCL injury. Let's see if anything official is broken here recently. No. Okay. By the way, we talked about Taysom Hill earlier. Here's some news and notes, and we'll finish this up here with the game too. Baker Mayfield's got a sore leg, but he should be able to play this week. Adam Schefter's reporting that Taysom Hill is going to miss the remainder of the year with a knee injury. Shane Steichen is unsure if Josh Downs will be able to play after the Week 14 bye. Remember, he hasn't played the last couple of weeks. Now we're hearing from the head coach he's not even sure he's going to return in Week 15. Bucky Irving says he's feeling better after hurting his hip. I see nothing there about Christian McCaffrey. The reports are that McCaffrey hurt his PCL, that his season is likely over. We'll probably get confirmation of that today or tomorrow. Probably today. McCaffrey's season of such promise, where everyone besides us at fantasyguru.com, everyone in the fantasy space besides us at fantasyguru.com, let me say it a third time, besides us at fantasyguru.com, everyone said Christian McCaffrey was the number 1 player this year. I mean, and it's not just that he hasn't been the number 1 player, it's been bad. He looked solid last night. He was very productive last night. He had 9 touches last night and 67 yards. Niners were opening up some big holes early against the Bills. Looked like they were going to be able to establish the run and see if they could give that Bills team a go last night. And then McCaffrey hurt himself, and that was it. And so now we're hearing PCL injury, and the Niners, Trent Williams is down, Brandon Ayuk is down. They've lost Purdy at time. I mean, they're 5-7. They should at least be 7-5. You can make the case they should be 8-4. They blew a couple games late, but it's not impossible for the Niners to reach the playoffs. But they're clearly not going anywhere this season. This injury to McCaffrey. Jordan Mason looked good again last night. Jordan Mason was a running back 1 when Christian McCaffrey was down. If the Christian McCaffrey owner didn't pick up Jordan Mason, when you drop Jordan Mason because he wasn't doing anything for you anymore, go add Jordan Mason. Again, whether you believe in handcuffing or not, you are a moron if once the weeks hit double digits, if you don't handcuff your number 1 running back. You're a moron. Sorry, just saying it. And if you have Christian McCaffrey and you didn't add Mason at the draft, cool, that's fine. But when Mason was on the waiver wire this year, if you didn't pick him up, because I find it really hard to believe that when Christian McCaffrey came back, that at least some people didn't drop Mason, right? I even heard this morning in Discord, someone said, Mason's available. How much fab should I bid? So, boy, if you had Mason available and you had Christian McCaffrey and you didn't have Mason, I got no sympathy for you. Mason's the pickup, obviously. Isaac Guerrero got in the end zone last night. Remember, now if Christian McCaffrey is indeed out, Guerrero is also an addition. Because last we saw Mason, remember, he had the shoulder issue and he was so we haven't heard anything negative about Mason's health, and it's very likely he's not only the leader of the backfield, that he dominates the backfield right now. Guerrero getting 5 touches a week kind of thing. Can he make it through the rest of the season without getting beat up? Can his shoulder and body handle the 18, 20 touches a week they're giving him? Isaac Guerrero, if he's out there on the waiver wire, I'm just saying. It's tough this week with all the buys, but I'm just saying. And then finally, Amari Cooper yesterday, 3 catches, 12 yards. The highlight of the game was him making that great one-handed catch and then the flip to Josh Allen. I wouldn't be shocked if Amari Cooper was dropped in some leagues, right? Because he hasn't done anything since he's gone to the Bills. If that happens, add Amari Cooper. It's tough to start Cooper with any level of confidence right now. But I still strongly believe that down the stretch here in the final few games, that Amari Cooper will end up becoming that 5-catch, 70-yard guy. And with that, the Bills' offense will become even more dynamic and dangerous, which is scary, right? But Amari Cooper shouldn't be on the waiver wire if someone rage drops him because they're just tired of it. If they drop him this week, because again, 6 teams on bye, be the smart person in that league, add Amari Cooper back to your ball club. So there's a review. Don't forget, you can see it there on the screen too. For the rest of the season, for seasonal, for DFS, and for wagering, for all of football, NFL and college football, for all of football, for gambling, for DFS, and for seasonal, for all 3 pieces, $99 the rest of the way. Click the subscribe tab in the top right corner. You get all the articles on everything. You get all the live streams on everything. You get all the rankings on everything. And I mean the rankings for seasonal. You get access to the Discord room to ask your questions. You get the live streams for cash game breakdowns. You get the live streams for DFS. You get the live streams with the coaches, the coaching breakdowns. You get it all. Rankings, articles, live streams, access to chat rooms, all of it. $99 the rest of the season. Click that subscribe tab in the top right corner. All right, let's look at some comments here and see what we've got. Sean H says, is Pearsall droppable? Depends who you add. But I think in a lot of situations, yes. Purdy's shoulder, it's hard to know, right? Is his shoulder really good? They didn't throw it last night. He threw for 94 yards and 18 passes. I don't know the answer because I don't know the league setup and what you're doing, Sean. But in general, I'm not tied to holding on to Pearsall. Let's see here. Yeah, I know, Chris, right? It's the first time there's ever been a game in snow. And it's so funny. The players said it. They even reiterated at the start of the broadcast, the sideline reporters. The players are, snow is snow. It's the wind that's the problem. It's not the snow. Come on, let's go. Tony T says, I can't even imagine Josh Allen when he's healthy. Well, luckily, Tony, I would say this. You're a smart fella. That's why you're here with us at fantasyguru.com. That's why you're here on this show all the time saying smart things, because you will do the smart thing, which is play Josh Allen. A lot of people didn't want to do it yesterday. I'm just telling you. Man. In one league, Angelo says he lost. How do you lose by what? 6.22, 22 hundredths? Ooh. Sorry, Angelo. That's rough. It's wild to me. Most leagues are a tenth of a point, not down to the hundredth of a point, but that's really tough. Sean C., I debated McLaurin and Metcalf in the rankings, but the rankings at fantasyguru.com led me to starting Terry. Good job. Glad you followed the rankings and they helped you out there, Sean. I will say this again. Please, everybody, do yourself a favor and help me save my sanity. Please, for the love of God, play in 3 wide receiver leagues. Okay? 3 wide receiver leagues have been the industry standard for 25 years. I can't tell you, I get so unbelievably frustrated because I have to tell people every Sunday, I probably have to tell 30 to 50 people every Sunday to bench a top 15 wide receiver, which is stupid, number one. Number two, then these people will think, well, your advice at fantasyguru.com or Ray, your advice isn't any good. No, you're just asking me whether to play wide receiver 13 or 15. And the answer is yes, both. You always play top 15 wide receiver, that kind of thing. But I'm glad you made the right decision yesterday, Sean. And as you noted, we did have Terry ahead of DK in the rankings. Angelo says, I started Terry because I didn't trust Jennings in the snow. Angelo, we had Terry McLaurin 25 spots ahead of Juwan Jennings yesterday. Massive, not even close to being on the same. They're not even close. Terry McLaurin should always be started over him. Morning, Ray. If McCaffrey is down, David P's asking his question. I can get Mason. Would you recommend getting Garendo? Yeah, just answered that. This question from David's from 35 minutes ago. So inadvertently answered your question, David, without even knowing the answer. So there you go. Glad we were able to do that. Let's see here. Angelo, we just said, this is comments from 20 minutes ago too. The early reports with Baker Mayfield's leg are that he's sore, but he's going to be okay and be able to play. So you should be okay there. And then, Al Shahir, excuse me, who's on my Dynasty League team, is probably going to be suspended for that hit on Trevor Lawrence. And, things happen in a split second on a football field or in any sporting event. And, defensive players are in a really tough spot because they've made this game very difficult to play defense. Like, you can't fall on a guy, you can't hit a guy a certain way, you can't tackle him a certain way. It's very tough to be a defensive player. And making that decision when the player's running at you full speed, because remember, Trevor Lawrence is running at you full speed. If you play it for him to slide, like that's in your head, he's going to go down. He's going to make a juke and go right around you. I know he's not Mr. Athletic compared to Lamar Jackson or something when he's running. Still an athletic guy though. And if you're thinking he's going down and for just a hesitation at any 500ths of a second, you hesitate, he's going to go down, and you start to hunch for this, and he makes a juke and goes around. You're on every highlight film looking like a moron as you whiff on a quarterback running by you, who then runs for 18 yards, right? So it's very tough to play defense. These decisions are made in real time. It's easy to watch a replay and say, "Oh my God," but it's just like that. The hit was awful. It was a penalty. He should have been ejected from the game. I don't have a problem with the suspension coming here too. Just tough playing defense in the NFL. But he deserved it. It was a cheap hit. There's no way around that. It was a cheap hit. And then finally, Tony T says, how do you feel about the role that Shepard is carving out for himself in the Bucs offense? I think that his role in this offense, I'll give Jeff Mann mad props. This is exactly what Jeff Mann said would happen. And I know Jeff gets a lot of crap from people all the time because they hear something he says and they don't like it because they think he's boastful or loud or whatever, which isn't true. When you get told you're an idiot, 112 times a day, I'd see people treat Jeff, frankly, I'm just going to swear, they treat him like shit. And it's really disappointing that people do this. Jeff will be talking about the Titans game, and someone will say, well, at least it's not the Bears because he grew up in Chicago. Like, that has anything to do with it. Jeff will be talking about Christian McCaffrey and how, you shouldn't have drafted Christian McCaffrey, and someone will start talking about Xavier Legette. Like, I don't even understand what happens with Jeff. But Jeff basically said when Evans returns, this is what's going to happen with Sterling Shepard. Evans is back, and what Jeff said is exactly what's happening with Sterling Shepard. He's the number 2 pass catcher in his offense right now. They oddly get him the ball on the ground a little bit too, which, again, he's not Deebo Samuel, but they try that. He's a 4 or 5 catch. He's an 8 to 10 point a week PPR player is Sterling Shepard. And that's exactly who he's been the last couple of games with Evans back. And I think that's who he is. So, during bye weeks, you can say to yourself, well, maybe, Tampa Bay's not on a bye this week. Maybe I need a wide receiver 4. I need a second flex option. Maybe. I think that's the zone he's in. And again, it's just exactly what Jeff said. Be nice to your fellow analysts. Be nice to analysts in general. I had a guy come at me yesterday for a wrong call I made. I was wrong, but it was from a week ago. It's like, bro, come on, get a life. So be good. And in this case, as in most cases, if we're being honest, Jeff Mans was right. Sorry to say it, but he was right. So there you go. You and Jeff and FG are the best fantasy football analysts in the business. Thank you, Tony. And that's why you always play Josh Allen. No, I appreciate that. It's really nice of you to say that. And I'll let Jeff know because it's always nice to hear the positives because, again, it's a long season and you hear a lot of negatives as an analyst in the fantasy space. Thank you, Tony. Appreciate it. All right. So I'm Ray Flowers of FantasyGuru.com. As you can see there on the screen, click on the top right corner of the page over at FG. You can send a note to the email support@fantasyguru.com, support@fantasyguru.com. Say, hey guys, I'd like to sign up for this. I'd like to do that. Or you can just go to the website and sign up for the seasonal DFS and wagering football package right now. All 3, price of 1. Subscribe tab in the top right corner. Thanks for watching the show today. Remember, you can always listen to us live. You can always listen to us live each day at 12 o'clock Eastern time. You can always listen to us on demand at fantasyguru.com. Click that Elite Plus tab at the top of the page. That'll take you, by the way, for those that haven't gone and looked, to all of our shows. We have Basketball Diaries with Justin Fensterman. We've got The Mind of Marsal. We've got the Fantasy Guru Race Hour. We've got the Jeff Mans One Man's Opinion. We have a lot of podcasts each week, so you can always go to the website, Elite Plus tab at the top of the page, or type in Fantasy Sports Daily in your podcast network. to like, subscribe, check, 5-star, all that good stuff for the show here. I'm Ray Flowers. You can follow me on the social medias at the Ray Flowers. And you can find me back here tomorrow at 12 o'clock Eastern as we keep the good times rolling, as we start looking ahead to week 14 of the fantasy football season. I am Ray Flowers. This has been Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by fantasyguru.com.